All right, welcome back to another episode of Regenerative Inspiration. It takes grit to do this podcast. There's a reason why we're having some adversity here. This is the third take, technical difficulties. And Jennifer, you are a gem for hanging tight here. I'm not sure what was going on, but there was static in the line. There was different stuff, and we figured it out, I think. So we'll see.
Don't
I
worry.
think we finally figured it out. But today we're with Jennifer Bardot, and she blew me away. So 7 books, 5 different academic curriculums, a clothing line, a jewelry line, entrepreneur. You were a banker during COVID. You had some things that spurred this on. You've overcome adversity. Like, you bring hope, inspiration to everybody you meet, I think it sounds like. And so I'm excited to have you on. So thank you so much for taking the time, and tell us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to be here to tell my story. I love our mission. Is that you have the same mission of creating hope through hardship, as do I. And storytelling is the best way to do that. So, yeah, during COVID, I actually published my first book, and it was a side hustle. And it was called Owning Your Grit. It was in 2021. I collectively pulled together 40 women to share our stories of grit, which I trademarked: growth, resilience, intention, tenacity. And it ended up being an international bestseller in over 8 countries and organically picked up by Target, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, Kindle, Amazon. And I was just blown away because I didn't even see myself as a leader. And here I am having these leaders share their stories. And writing could be one of the hardest things that I could have ever done, because in the 3rd grade, I was diagnosed with a disability, which was a learning disability, which they coded it as learning disability. But it took me until I was 36 to actually realize it was dyslexia and ADHD. So I couldn't sit still long enough to comprehend or even read at that point. But I figured out how to push through the suck and leaned on my peers quite a bit to help me overcome adversity through education, because I learned much differently than my peers. But I never wanted that to be something that I shared with my peers or my friends or even my employer or my teacher, to be honest, even though they knew that I had a disability in regards to a teacher, because I had an individual education plan. But yeah, by actually owning my grit, it allowed me to actually support over 275 folks to share their stories of overcoming hardships and adversities and pushing through the suck, as I call it. And it just allowed more doors to open just by staying in alignment with who I was and being purposeful with my mission, which was to really unveil those hard stories to give hope to those that really cannot find another way out, or they don't know if there's another way to find inspiration, hope, or understand their purpose. So it's been an interesting journey.
I love it. Well, and I think, that was part of the mission in 2019 that got me moving this direction to have the podcast, was to capture 7,000 stories of people overcoming adversity across 7 continents. And it was a, grandiose vision, right? And it's still moving. COVID kind of threw a wrench in there when it all happened, because I was going to do it in studio type of thing or on location. And yeah, but it's been so interesting, because like, just knowing that somebody has gone through what you've gone through and overcome many times gives people enough hope that they can actually take the next step or keep moving. And sometimes it's something small, sometimes something huge, sometimes it's like life changing, sometimes it's just moment changing, right? Or career changing. But it's significant that if somebody has overcome something, which literally I don't think there's anything that somebody hasn't overcome.
Right.
So have faith that you can do it too. It's just taking that one step at a time. So when you were starting to write the book, though, like, what got you there? Because you were talking about it was during COVID.
Mhm.
You were doing a bunch of PPP loans, and
Yeah.
you're a banker working 60 hours a week.
Right.
Like, tell me about that, and like, what spurred you to do something like a passion project that turned into something that's your life now and your lifestyle, and you're completely flowing with that, right?
Yeah, so I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Everybody in my family owned business. I was actually a first generation college student. So I have 2 masters in secondary education counseling and private practice therapy. So I've always had the mission of helping others. And while being on the side of a banker, I was also the side of the therapist with helping a lot of my business owners, just hearing the hard things that they're going through. And I was sitting there thinking, if these leaders, these incredible leaders that are, you know, running companies and doing great things are struggling this much, think about the person that doesn't see themselves as a leader or doesn't have the courage to share the hard things that they're enduring. And I thought it would just really humanize hardship by unveiling those hard stories to create hope and hopefully eliminate, some loneliness, because there was a loneliness epidemic that was a statistic saying from the Surgeon General that was actually killing more people than cigarettes or cancer. So this was something that we really needed to focus on. And I just hated seeing so many people struggle. So I thought, in my little wheelhouse, what's something that I could do to create hope? And I pulled together 40 people and we shared our stories. And then that was the that was the impetus of everything that I've built ever since. I just stayed in alignment with my purpose, vision, mission, and it's really cool what is attracted to you when you're on the right journey. But yeah, I was a banker. I was securing, tons of PPP loans, helping businesses still stay alive during these really uncertain times. But I think the tipping point for me was one, the Surgeon General statistic, but two, there was a statistic published by Forbes that said the majority of jobs held by women were the ones that were actually being relinquished. And as a woman and seeing like me be a first generation college student, I secured my, senior business banker title, president circle, all these things to see them having to step back in those leadership roles. It was difficult. So I thought we need to pull together and really share these hard stories and give other people's hope to just keep pushing through and get onto the other side. So yeah, the impetus was having 3 kids at home, being stretched as a mom, as a banker, and then just trying to find a way to create hope in such a uncertain time in our culture. So
Talk to me about grit, what it means, what people can do to apply it to life, and
yeah.
yeah, expand on that a little bit.
So obviously there's a lot of shame having a disability. So I have a lot of resiliency throughout my life. And I feel like that was one of the I don't know, main factors that has helped me kind of push through any adversity that I've ever encountered. It's a no right now is kind of the mindset. Like whatever you're going to go through, you just have to find an alternative route, but keep going because it's on your path. But I trademarked the acronym GRIT to stand for growth, resilience, intention, tenacity. And I have 3 pillars behind each of those words within my anthologies to really teach that mindset, because it is a mindset, it's a lifestyle, and it's a commitment to really understanding who you are and finding your end destination and making sure that you're retracting every step and going down that same path. So for me, I had to be very intentional with getting into grad school, taking, my GR, or what was it, the what is it? I forget what the test was even called, to get into grad school, like I had to be very intentional and start studying like 3 years prior to even trying to apply to grad school because of my disability. But I mean, I think once people are able to understand how being intentional, having that growth mindset, being resilient, and tenaciously owning their journey, that's how we go to next levels. And the next book that I'm actually going to be writing is about mental fortitude, how we have to really unlock, you know, the mental capacity of shifting to get to those next levels and open those new opportunities and doors. And whatever we envision for our future is essentially what comes to fruition. So it's all about like law of attraction and just understanding like, who am I, owning who you are, and then just walking with that purpose to create hope, because that's why we're put on this earth, because we're all uniquely different. So
Yeah, 100%, and we all have to work together.
yeah,
So, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I had a thought, so because I don't know if I had a learning disability when I grew up or not, but, like, I definitely was slow at reading, and part of it was, I think, the phonics.
yep,
Like, sounding it out really slowed me down, and so when I, was going into college, I
mhm.
ran into a speed reading course called by Stephen Berg. I don't know if you ever heard
I
of that or
actually
not,
took
but
that because I was trying to take
yeah.
anything to help me. So
Was that like a transformation? Because what happened for me was that it was, that paradigm shift you have? Like,
mhm,
nobody ever told me that, like, when you get to a stoplight, you assimilate all of this information, right? Cars coming, this, that, that's red, somebody's crossing. Like, you can assimilate all this information, but you're reading one line at a time and it's going too slow for your brain,
yep,
right? And so
exactly.
then you start to get in this little loop where you're reading the same sentence over and over again and daydreaming because it's not fast enough.
Yep,
So a simple thing you said was just push your eye along, right? And then don't just read one line, read 2 lines.
mhm,
Oh, and guess what? It's the same symbols, you can read them upside down too. So, like, It blows people away that I could read upside down. I used to like when I was really practiced, I could read a page really fast. I would read a book a day.
Yeah.
And it changed everything when I didn't have to sound it all out. And I
Mhm.
wish there was that option when you're labeled back in the day of being a bad reader or whatever else, that they're like, oh, maybe you just input differently, and it's like you don't want to sound it out because it's too slow for your brain to process, and
100%. Yes, and, like,
yeah.
some people are auditory, learners, some people are visual.
Mhm.
Well, I need both. Like, I love audio when I'm following along, and the speed reading helped me tremendously because my I'm like, I have to have more like, 1 word, I don't even know what a vowel and noun is, but here I am writing book, so, like, hopefully
Yeah.
that does inspire people to do hard
Right.
things because, like, just because someone tells you you can't do something, that doesn't mean that they can play fortune teller with your life. You have to be able to
Mhm.
understand what do you need and what are the, accoutrements or whatever to make it happen. For me, I really
Yeah.
realized like there was a certain coding, even color or the size of font, to really help me
Mhm.
understand how to comprehend things. But yeah, I needed to move it at a much faster pace. So
Yeah. We're all gonna start reading upside down now. That's what we're gonna
that's
do.
fascinating.
It's the same. I mean, if you think about it, it's the same thing. So read it
Yeah.
upside down.
Well, I'll tell you, Maddie's helped me
For real.
tremendously with just helping
What
comprehend
did?
that AI.
Yeah.
Using AI
Yeah.
to really help comprehend things, break things down, recap
Mhm.
what I'm trying to say, or they even catch the different words that I'm usually in the wrong context, because it's the right
Mhm,
letter, but
mhm,
not the
mhm,
right word.
mhm.
So
I love it.
yeah.
I love it. Well, but here's the thing too that like I think, we were talking about, during COVID, women were losing jobs. That was a motivation. Think about AI. AI can be that level playing field for a lot of people too, like where it
Absolutely.
can catch people up. It's a tool. Like and we talk about it a lot. It's like some people are very worried about it losing their jobs, but it's like if you don't know how to use it, you might lose your job, right?
Yeah.
But it's like there's also ways you can use it as a tool. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
I want 12 steps. I want 12 questions to identify what my purpose is, or I want these things like help me create something or plan for my life, like, or whatever. I mean, there's all sorts of different things you can use it for now that, like, I mean, it's pulling and extracting from the entire web. You
Yes.
still have to have that oversight to make sure it's correct, but
Right.
it's like, as a tool, it's unbelievable, And so, speak to that and maybe the opportunities that's giving people and how it's leveling the playing field for many.
Yeah, I talk about that a lot on my radio show because I feel like creativity and curiosity is such a gift. And sometimes you naturally have it and sometimes you don't. But now those that aren't naturally creative or have that curiosity, they can go into Chat GPT or whatever, Gemini or whatever platform they utilize. And it really enhances all aspects of their life. If it's, finding a recipe in the kitchen or figuring out, hey, I need a board of advisors. What's this going to look like? Or, hey, I'm looking into getting in this contract for a trademark. Can you walk me through this process? It's literally a trusted advisor that you can lean on. And I really think it enhances just every aspect of your life, personal, professional, all of it. So it's aided me tremendously just because I can talk to text now. I don't even have to worry about typing it out or misspelling anything or using the wrong words. And it just speeds things up on a much faster pace and I'm able to get a lot more things accomplished. There's no way I could have, 5 different companies if I was doing every aspect of my business myself. I would go nuts, So now I can really lean
Exactly.
into these spaces and it enhances my business and it allows me just to have better communication skills with my clients, my employees, and people in my network, which I find tremendously beneficial because as a kid, my mom gave me a hooked on phonics or a little computer where you type in the words and it would try to, give you a synonym for the word you're trying to find, or I blew up my thesaurus because I couldn't figure out the word that I wanted. So this is just, I mean, this is a game changer for me with my disability. It's been amazing. So
I love it. I
yeah.
love it. Well, it's funny because one of the first things you said is you like use it in the kitchen. I'm like, so
Yeah.
I love green curry. Okay, I love green curry.
Yeah.
For the first time ever through ChatGPT, I learned how to make green curry the way that actually tastes like the original that I had, like from like, well, I'll call it my Thai family because
Cool.
they were my neighbors in the first business I had, and like they were our family. Like so, but
Awesome.
like I could never ever get it that way. I'm like, that's how you do it.
Well, it's
So
so cool. Like some of the workshops
yeah.
I have these AI experts, they come in, they're like, they give you a list of ingredients. You're like, what can I make with this? you know?
Mhm.
It just I don't know,
Yeah.
it just speeds things up and it just allows creativity and
Yeah.
new experiences and just, it allows you to also see your blind spots too because it's things that you might never have known how to do. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Well, I love it because I mean, there's so much opportunity, I think, again, that people can utilize, no matter what it is. But I think the verbal side has really sped things up.
Yes.
And that's pretty awesome. Well, what would you talk to, somebody that's out there right now that's like maybe in a transition period? They are not happy with where they're at right now. They know they're not happy with where they're at right now. What would you tell them at this moment? Like what can they do? Like what would you give to them?
First and foremost, do not give up. There is always an option, and I feel like when we get in our deepest, darkest places is really when we need to lean in and figure out who we are and what value we have, and we all have value, and sometimes we forget our value, and for me, this is the whole acronym resilience. So I make people think about what is it that they really enjoy to do? What is it that brings them joy and purpose? And they feel that they have tremendous value in this world and lean into that. And I would say utilize ChatGPT if you can't come up with that idea yourself. Cause like as a first generation student, my family's been in construction. I didn't know any other jobs other than doctor, nurse, like the big titles. I would have never thought becoming a radio host or, doing PR or anything like that. So it's like sometimes when we don't understand our purpose, do not feel as though you're stuck. Really sit with yourself, do that self-reflection, do the hard work and figure out what you can do to really inspire you. And who cares if it's not, the title or the, salary that you're wanting. What I've realized is when you're in alignment with who you are and your value and your purpose, all that comes because you're pouring your whole self into that. People are attracted to that energy and you're able to really tap in and hone on to who you are. So, and it'll give you more purpose and titles and finances and all that stuff isn't everything. So I would say don't give up hope, sit with yourself, reflect, figure out what's your purpose value and what brings you joy and lean into that. So
Love that. So what are some of the strategies that you keep that focus on a weekly, monthly basis for yourself?
well, for me, obviously, with the ADHD, it's really hard to get derailed. So I try to stay focused, because I realize that there's only so much time in each day. And
Yeah.
what is my purpose and why I am on this earth? So right now, I'm passionate about kids. I'm passionate about helping those that are underserved. If it's someone with a disability, if it's low income, if it's someone that's struggling with self esteem, that's who I really want to speak to and help see that there is an opportunity for them to grow and see themselves as a leader and see themselves as having value. And that's why I created these great courses. Within my community, I have grit awards. So we get to nominate leaders that have gone through hard times. If it's cancer, if it's starting a business, if it's overcoming a disability, we want to highlight and praise these people that have done hard things and pushed through those mental barriers because they could have given up. They could have been a victim, but that's my purpose. I want to be a cheerleader and a champion for those that have gone through hard things to inspire others to push through the suck. So,
I love the push through the suck.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
because
it's
it's
true. It's hard.
doesn't always feel great. I
It's so
know.
hard. Yeah. And easier said than done. Like when you're feeling it and you're down, I mean, it's hard. So you really got to dig deep and push. And sometimes we have a tribe that supports us, but a lot of time we have to have our own backbone that's only going to be doing that work. So you really got to lean in and do that self-reflection and figure out how you're going to get out of that ditch to get up that hill. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, there was I don't know if you ever heard of Brian Tracy back in the day. He said something to the fact that, like, he goes, most people would care more about their little, like, hangnail on their finger than your life going down in flames. So don't care what they think about you at all. Focus on what you need to do for your life because it doesn't matter what they think about you. And as soon as you kind of get over yourself, I think, that's a whole, big thing too. For me, even like going in front of the camera instead of being behind the camera was significantly different. So I had to get over myself. Like, what if somebody said, like, who
Yeah.
cares? Like, it doesn't matter. They're not doing it. So it's like, if they do, great. That's awesome. So
That's
just, I think you have to do what you're supposed to do and just go after it. Right.
That's definitely a lesson that I had to learn. It's like take it or leave it, especially when you're doing keynotes and you're getting in large audiences and you're being so vulnerable and it takes courage and you have people that are judging you. You just have to realize that those aren't your people. It doesn't matter because there is somebody in that audience that's going to relate with you and you're going to inspire them and you're going to give them hope. So I feel like that is very much a lesson you have to learn to really own who you are and be able to, walk your path. So,
Yeah. And I mean, I think if you start with the fact that everybody's made mistakes,
yeah.
some worse than others, right?
Yes.
We've tried to learn from others, but most of the time we don't.
Yeah,
So we have to
right.
do it again.
Mhm.
And then you have to make the same mistake potentially again. And then you walk into something where you don't think you're making a mistake and all of a sudden you did.
Right.
So no one's perfect. Everybody came from a messed up family, like
Mhm.
in some way, right? And it's like, okay, great. Well, don't, you know, let's go. Who
Yes.
cares? Everybody's messed up.
Yes.
And
There
I think
is
once you
no such
once you get
thing as
through that,
perfect. Yeah.
I
One of the books
know.
that I was really inspired by was that Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. Like, that was a game changer because it was like, "Huh, people aren't just perfect." And then once I had that mindset, then I that led to actually allowing these leaders to unveil their hard stories, how life just hasn't been perfect because a lot of people just have that misconception that everything's come easy and no hardships. They've never, had to involve anything that was difficult. It's just been easy. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And like literally when we start talking about imperfection, like of course I'm listening to the sounds. I don't know if you can hear the roosters in the background. Do you hear them?
No,
Like the
that's hilarious.
roosters. I'm on the ranch right now. So like, it's like
That's so
there's
funny.
roosters crowing and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Like, okay. And in the background, who cares? If you're mad about my roosters in the background, yeah, forget it.
No worries. No.
I'm just messing, but like the audience, so but like that's an imperfection that like sometimes you're like, oh, let's cut. We got to do this over again. And anyway, yeah, I live on a ranch, so we have like chickens and
Oh,
eggs,
cool.
and so we have some roosters for that as well because I do like to incubate them. That was something. I mean, I love challenges, right? And so
Mhm.
that's something that's been fun too. It's like I never incubated an egg before, so let's try it, So, and then when you incubate them, half of them are roosters and half of them are hens. Roosters
Yeah.
don't lay eggs, So you're like, what do you do with the roosters? So it's like anyway, but that's most people eat them.
Yeah.
I can't eat them because I incubated them. So
Yeah.
like
They're like
anyway,
babies.
to give them to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, the neighbors
Cool.
need them. Yeah, but no, it's I think it's fun. I mean, when you're overcoming. So what are some of the next steps for you? I mean, what are you going after next?
Yeah, so for me, it's always about evolving. Like, I never stay still long enough to just stop growing because I think once we stop growing, then we start to die and deteriorate. So we always got to push ourselves to the next level. So obviously, with these 5 courses they just certified at the University of California, I'm really taking that to our students. And I'm starting here in Missouri, having great conversations with the state of Missouri to really get this program to the after school program for low income, first generation, any student that needs a little bit of extra support to understand resiliency. That's really been my next focus. And then I'm constantly going to be publishing these books because I think they're inspiring and I think these short stories are pretty easy to read. And I want to keep
Mhm.
continuously creating hope. So the next book is about mental fortitude, which I'll be coming with that this summer. But, for me, it's like I know my end destination and I know what that looks like. But if things are along the way, they're in alignment with my purpose, then I allow them into my space. Just like the radio show, I've only been doing that since this June. So for the past 7 months, and it's brought me so much joy and it's allowed me to highlight the leaders that are doing amazing things in our community. So I'm always open to opportunities, but for me, it's really about infusing grit into our youth, highlighting the leaders in our community that are doing great things and cheerleading them because a lot of times we don't take the time to cheerlead ourselves. And I want to be that person to really help inspire others. So we'll see where that takes me, but it's definitely down the purpose of building community, building relationships, helping inspire hope in our youth, and highlighting our leaders.
Talk about the curriculum a little bit because from my understanding, like getting a curriculum into California is probably the hardest state period, right? So like talk to me about what the curriculum is and how it's used. Because maybe there's some people out there that can benefit from that.
That'd be amazing. Yeah. So this was a fellow Titan that approached me because at the time I'd published 7 books and he'd seen the work that I've done in the community to really, bring a diverse group of people together to share hard stories. And they're from all different industries and walks of life. And then seeing how I was so purposeful of really teaching grit. So one of the courses is about entrepreneurialism. So it's really teaching people what are the skills that they need to have to launch a business and to be mindful that failure doesn't mean that you have to stop. You just have to continuously evolve. And I have a whole slide deck. It goes to 5 to 8 weeks, depending upon, how in depth. Some of them are virtually led, so they can do that at their own pace too. Another course is about resiliency. So for me, it's really pulling yourself yourself up by your bootstraps, but it's not about doing the hard things. It's about really understanding that mindset of overcoming the challenges, overcoming the adversity, and just staying on course. And then I have another one that's based upon actually economics. So, how different social economic statuses can alter, and you have to have grit in order to understand that self awareness and growth. But yeah, it's a combination of all 5 courses that you can take. And if you're in college, like right now, we're talking to some local colleges here in St. Louis, you can get a certificate. And if you're, a high school student, you could get dual credit hours. So if you're in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, you can take these courses and then it'll be applied to your transcript when you transfer into college. So yeah, I'm really passionate about giving these kids the tools, what they'll need to understand when life gets hard. There's always options, not everybody is meant for college. Some people need to start a business, and some people need to go into the trades. So there's always different alternatives. So really thinking outside of the box, we're not robots, but really helping them kind of be more enlightened about the topic of what grit is. So, and then
Well, I love that because
personal narrative
yeah,
is the last one. So, but
personal narrative.
personal narrative, yeah. Just the power of storytelling and understanding who you are and doing that self-reflection. So,
I love that. I mean, because yeah, most of the time people don't even stop to think who they are, right?
no.
Or where they want to go. I think
Yeah.
taking that time is really important. And especially at younger ages. I mean, let's get real. Like the school system right now, especially since multiple choice tests is like basically regurgitating information,
Right.
and it's like not creating new ideas. It's not creating innovation for the most part, except for a few classes. And so it's not teaching entrepreneurialism. It's not teaching sales. Like
Mhm.
a lot of like, hey, like how many percent of the people should actually be salespeople? And like sales sometimes has a bad connotation, but it's like everything around you is sold, right? Everything you touch, the airtime, this program, the paper, the whatever, like everything, the books, like the stores, the space in the stores, the airtime that you sell on radio, like or not you, but like people sell on radio. Like it's like everything has a sales attachment to it. And if you don't have sales, you don't have really life, right? So but I think, you know, to that point, like there's so many more things that people need to be able to do if they had a purpose, if they focused, if they
Mhm.
didn't waste their time, another conversation we were talking about like, hey, you know what? I was sitting at the bar every night and it was like one of those things where that was their habit. They were doing it and then pretty soon they said, this isn't serving me
Nope.
and it's not what I want to do. And they never had a drink since. It's
Mhm.
like that literally shifted everything. It's like, okay, well, if it's not serving you, eliminate it from your life. That's something that you can do. And you think about that at a very granular level every day. Like there's something that's let's waste your time not serving you, doing something that's not edifying you,
Mhm.
people around you that aren't serving you in not in like a horrible way, you know what I'm saying? But like people that are around you that are taking away from you and sucking from you and not helping in a certain way. Like those are all things that we can take assessment of and move on.
Absolutely. And
It
something that
was
I've noticed with these people who have never gone through hard times or struggles or, transitions in life, they're generally the people that have gone through life and never taken the time to self-reflect. And I feel like it's a gift. I know every scar, it hurts, but it's a gift to have these many difficult transitions or difficult challenges that you've overcame because it makes you that much tougher, that much wiser, and that much more insightful of how you're going to purposely walk forward. So it's interesting because a lot of people that have never been like experienced a grit experience, you know, they're blown away with the fact of how people who have overcome such hardships. So it's
yeah.
interesting. It's a twofold thing. So it's inspiring from both aspects. But yeah, I love the fact that you're talking about the negative things in the life, how you can remantle that to get back on track, to not be derailed too. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I mean, if you think about resistance is what creates strength, right? So
Yes.
you go to a gym, it's resistance that causes that strength, right? And so
Mhm.
there was a old story, I don't remember where I heard about it, but so God told a man to push on this rock. Okay. So the man went every day out and pushed on this rock, pushed on this rock, and so after a period of time, Satan came along and said, "Why are you pushing the rock? You're never gonna move the rock." And he goes, God's just laughing at you right now because you can't move the rock. And so he's like, you know what? You're right. I'll never move this rock. That's why, and went back to his house and pouted, right?
Yeah.
And so God comes along and says, hey, why aren't you out pushing on the rock? He goes, well, I can never move the rock. Why did you? He's like, well, who told you that? He's like, well, Satan told me that. And he goes, well, look at your muscles. And they look down and there's muscles. And he's like, look at your endurance. Look at the ability to the stick to itness, like all the different things that you can do, the grit, right? And he goes, that's I never asked you to move the rock. I asked you to push on it because it would make you stronger and bigger and better and like be able to do more. Like that was it. Like so that was the principle. And I think we can all take that and say, okay, we all have had resistance and it can make you stronger, And so there's human nature in general wants to take you down to an easy path. But like those that take that path never have the resistance, never gain the strength, never gain the endurance, never get to there. Right. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it's like when I was taught in college, I was taught like top 10%.
Yep.
That's who gets all the accolades, makes all the money, and gets known, right? And so you always want to be top 10%. Like it's not okay to be in the middle, like right. So that was like kind of a I don't know, maybe that's more the entrepreneur side or leadership side or whatever. But like it's like that's like I've been content but not like satisfied. Does that make sense?
That was
So
my
it's like you have
performance mindset too. Yeah, I was trying to be a top producer, whatever industry I was in, making sure that I stood out of the crowd, the top of the bell curve. But at that same token, I think sometimes we push ourselves too hard. So it's like it's one of those balancing acts. You got to have the resistance, but you have to be in tune with, hey, I've kind of pushed myself a little too far. But staying outside your comfort
yeah.
zone, I'm all about. I think that is great. That's where growth happens. It's where innovation happens. Yeah. But giving yourself time to actually be you too. So yeah,
Yeah,
I get that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're in St. Louis?
Yes.
That's where you're at.
Mhm.
Missouri, Kansas?
Missouri. Yep.
Chiefs fan?
Well, now because the Rams are gone. But no, I've always liked the Chiefs because I had a Lake of the Ozark house, so it was much closer to get to Kansas City. So yeah, Chiefs are great.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, no. So I grew up as a Browns fan, then went to Denver. So the Chiefs have always been kind of that. And then my boy was like, Mahomes.
Um,
I'm like, no.
hilarious. See, for
So
me, I love hockey.
yeah,
That's the sport
yeah.
for me.
Okay,
So yeah.
great.
Blues.
I would still say one of the most absolute fantastic experiences I ever had. Like on sports, like, and I've been on the field for like with the camera, taking photos at some pretty awesome places, including like 13 different Olympic teams and like, I mean, pretty awesome stuff, right? One of the best experiences I ever had was on the glass and a hockey game right by the goal. And it's like just nothing like you're like right in it. It's like one of the best experiences. If anybody ever gets a chance to do that, like those tickets aren't cheap, but like it was awesome.
So yeah.
It was
Well,
one of
you
the
would
best
love
experiences.
this. So I took my boys, we were in third row, and the little box where actually the film, somehow or
Yeah.
another, a puck slide into there, and my little guy was able to take that puck home. So not only did we get like top, I was like, well, I can never beat this game. This is incredible.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah.
That was awesome.
Oh yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, and the Avs are doing pretty good this year, so for sure. So it's been pretty good. It's been a few seasons, well, a few good seasons, but then it was a few years before, since the last great teams, which were pretty cool. But so what else should we talk about? I think there's a lot to go after, and we've just met, so I don't even know what else we should go through. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Where did your story come from? Why were you so passionate about, hitting that 7 number? 7,000,
So
7
yeah, well,
countries. Yeah.
that's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I don't think I actually talked about that on here. So on March 7th of 2019, I went up with a group of people on a cat ski trip. I love to ski and snowboard is what I do now, but skiing, I kept hurting myself, so I went to snowboarding. It's funner, more comfortable. We were on our seventh run of the day,
Mm.
and we needed to get, and it was actually the last run of the day because we had 22 inches of powder that night, and needed to get over to the other side where the cat was to pick us up. So it wasn't. We're going down this one slope, and then we had to traverse because there was like a gully and it had snowed a lot. So I was going near the end, right? I think I was the second to last person because we needed the skiers to make a path for the snowboarder. Otherwise, I was going to be like flailing around. And so somebody had fallen, and I had just come around the corner, and so I was there. I just stood up on my board, and there was this, and didn't think anything about it. Everybody on the other side started jumping up and down, going, "It broke loose! Go, go, go!" And I knew exactly what they meant. So I hit full speed as fast as I could. And unfortunately, I was kind of a little flat area. So I had to like get some speed. And I finally looked up, and, a half a mile of mountain release 18 feet deep at the crown. It was a D4 destructive value 4 avalanche. And it was coming at, really fast.
Yeah.
So you see that I looked up and I saw the churning and everything else. I hit the gap and made it about halfway up the hill on the other side, and like this slide of snow went through, and I was like, "Whew, I made it." And I did two more like frog leaps, and that third one I like literally got hit by an entire football team, and it got me. Like that's literally what happened. I got slammed into this avalanche, and like you try to swim and it's like it was useless. It was like so powerful. And so like I'm trying to swim, and basically then you bring your arm up so you can have like an air pocket for when you get stopped.
Right.
And so that rotated me around about 180 degrees, and then stopped, and I was buried. I couldn't move. And I just had to like take all that survival course stuff and just say, take a deep breath in, relax, and hopefully in 5 to 8 minutes they'll dig me out. Because that's about how much time I have of consciousness probably.
Right.
And within probably 30 seconds or so, another avalanche slammed into that avalanche. And so then all of a sudden it's like, if you can imagine like a train car, like the train car like bumps into the other one, and then they all start moving at the same speed. That's what started happening. So then I'm starting to move, right? The problem is is that now my ribs are on a tree, and I'm starting to bend around the tree.
Mm.
And so now I'm like, "Uh-oh, this isn't good." And and there was enough snow on top of me that it actually snapped the tree, right?
Whoa.
So, I mean, you talk about angel's wings. I mean, I definitely felt them that day.
Oh, yeah.
Like, then you go to the second tree, the third tree, and then it starts moving faster. And then now I'm like the trees are broken like this, so I'm sliding down the tree on my side,
Wow.
and I'm going slower because of friction. So now all the slough on top starts to go further down the hill, and then I end up at the top of the tree, on my snowboard, on my knees, looking up the hill, and I'm like doing my assessment, right? I'm like, anything broken, and like, and I was okay, and I was on buried, and so officially I was like buried, and then on buried. The Colorado Avalanche Institute had never heard of that, and like the
Wow.
guy that I talked to had been like 20 some years.
Oh.
So that happened on the 7th of March, and it was the seventh run, and then the next month later, my daughter Eva was born. I'm sorry, Allie was born, and that was on the 7th at 7 p.m., which was like kind of crazy, like exactly 7 p.m. And then 1 month later to the day on the 7th, April 7th, was the STEM school shooting, where there was a school shooting and my boy went to the STEM school. And like honestly, that was like heart wrenching, like
Yeah.
just not knowing like what was happening, and knowing there was fatalities and some other stuff. And then there was another event. My brother-in-law the next month uh passed away like from a cardiac arrest, like just in his sleep, like, and it was just like, so there was like 7 events, and so 7,000 stories, 7 continents, 7 years. Like that was my goal, was 7,000 stories. And so I didn't make that because of COVID, really derailed a lot of that. But I should have just done them online. I don't know why I didn't think that, because that's when really people needed more hope. So like I think that was something that I wish I could turn back the clock and do more back then. But we're on that mission again, and so that's what kind of manifested into the podcast, and like giving back is really important. Started out in healthcare, so like seeing the flicker of hope is what drives me in somebody's eyes, and so seeing that happen was something I wasn't seeing in my current, like in the garlic media group side of things. Like I would see it in business owners' eyes, but not as much as I wanted to. And so I'm like, okay, we have all this video stuff. I have all this background. I'm like, how do I share more? Because I've met thousands of people too. And I'm like, how can I bring these stories to life? how can you get people to tell their stories more, and like similar to what you did, you just started and you just
Yeah.
collected those things. So that's what we're doing, and it's so fun. I mean, it's like the feedback, it's like I haven't tried to promote anything or whatever else, but just starts to go organically, right? And
Mhm.
so people start to say, I got something from that. And it's like, keep doing it. Like that's important, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I think we forget as entrepreneurs sometimes too, or those around us that are entrepreneurs is really encouraging them, saying, hey, you're doing a great job. Like it's not like you don't hear that enough as a leader. You don't hear it enough. And so yeah, so that's where it came from.
That's
That's where
really cool.
17
That's
came. So yeah.
fascinating. So you're so
Yeah.
blessed to be here, and I'm what an
Yeah.
incredible mission. And I think it's really cool that, you know, just by you being observant and seeing the number 7, then inspired you to do so much like a bigger mission outside of yourself. Like that's so cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So maybe we'll have like, 700 people doing regenerative inspiration stories
Yeah.
as hosts. Maybe that's something I'll do, or 7,000. Because I mean, there's people all over the world that need to hear, and they need to hear from people that are like them.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it's like awesome.
That's so
So
cool.
yeah, that's a little bit more of the inspiration side of things that gets me going. But yeah,
That's
that's
amazing.
yeah, thanks for asking that.
Absolutely.
'Cause
I
I
was
don't I don't
wondering.
I
I was
don't
like, "Where'd that number
yeah.
come from? That's a huge number." I was like, "That's an
But
audacious goal. I love it."
it it is audacious.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's me though. I've gotta, like, make it make it bigger. But I never thought I could do it on my own per se. I thought, like, others would start to add stories in, and that's
Mhm.
still my hope and aspiration, is that other filmmakers that are out there capturing stories, like, whether it's in Mongolia or Africa or, South America or wherever it might be, Asia. I mean, it's like, okay, so well, Mongolia is in Asia, but, like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so but, it's one of those things where if other filmmakers are doing that and capturing the stories, or people start to do the same type of interview basis of just, getting to the core and understanding people, why they have the grit they have,
Right.
like that's a way that we can multiply what we're doing is our own efforts. But it takes that little snowball to get things moving. So
And I
that's
could see
that's
your
that's been
story in the documentary. I just watched a movie last night, and it was really interesting because it was about 4, football players. They're actually in Tampa, or no, Clearwater, Florida, and they took a boat out, and they knew it was gonna be poor weather, but they kinda just dismissed it. They did their fishing thing, and all of a sudden, just all it just broke loose, and
yeah.
just watching their mindset, the people that you thought were the biggest, the strongest, the toughest, were the ones that were first to go? So it was just interesting, and I could see you turning your story into a documentary because it's really inspiring, but just having been able to experience what those guys went through by watching that documentary, it just reiterated the fact that our minds are really in control of everything that we perceive in this world, and once we give up mentally, that's
Mhm.
you can't turn back from that.
Over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, something I've shared before. Was like when I first moved to Colorado, I took a survival course,
Mhm.
and, they teach you that you could live 40 days, like, without food, right? 4 days without water, 4 minutes on average without air,
Wow.
but 4 seconds without hope. And so hope is the key. Like, if
Yes.
you don't think you're gonna survive, you're not going to. If
Right.
you don't think you're gonna make it through it, you're not going to. And that's like when somebody says, "Hey, you got 6 months to live," and if you believe that, you're dead in 6 months. If you don't believe it, how many stories are there that have gone 20, 30, 40 years, you know?
I
So there's
remember.
not a circumstance, right, where there hasn't been some sort of, like, amazing recovery that doesn't make any sense to, the established protocols, right? But it's
Yes.
like, you made it through, right?
I learned that lesson when I was 20 because my grandma, she was young grandma, I thought she was gonna live forever. She had overcame cancer the first time, and she did the mental, "Oh, this isn't gonna get me. No, 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 no." But when it came back the second time, I could see a mental switch where she had just given up, and then lo and
Mhm.
behold, it was just like clockwork. But it's
Right.
interesting because even with medical situations, I feel like if our mindset is telling us otherwise, we can fool our brain, like we can fool our bodies
Yeah.
and our nervous system
Yeah.
because our brain is telling us what is actually capable. So, yeah, I didn't know those
Right.
numbers. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Or the labels, right? Like, you had the label of a
Yes,
learning disability,
right.
and you coulda let that you could use it as a crutch. You could use it as a bumper sticker of, like,
Yeah,
"I don't need to do anything because I have a learning disability,"
yeah,
but you flipped it around and you
yeah.
said, like, "Screw that."
No, they said I was gonna be
Right?
dependent on government disability, and I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be a top income earner, watch." So, yeah.
I
But
love it.
see, I'm stubborn, and I learned how to flip
Yeah.
the script and actually utilize that to work for me, but some people feed into
Mhm.
that, and that's that victim mentality that we have to teach people not to feed into. That's the devil of the rock? So it's like,
Mhm.
don't be the victim. Take whatever experience that you've endured and utilize that as your power. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's what that resistance, right?
Yeah.
Brings that strength. And I do think that there's a lot of things that come at you and sometimes you don't feel like you're prepared. I
Right.
was even talking to my boy this last week and what was it? I can't remember exactly what it was, but we were up snowboarding. I think that was what it was. So and he was carrying his stuff, and he's just like, "I can't carry this." I'm like, "Yes, you can. You can do it." Like it's yeah, at the end of a long day.
Yeah, it's
So
exhausting.
imagine that at that avalanche. I was
Yeah.
beat. I
Yeah,
was
you are.
worn out. Like for those that are snowboarders out there, I had too short a board for 22 inches, and so like literally, I'm a goofy rider. So like my left leg was on fire, like had been cramping up because it's like you're leaning back because otherwise you're going to submarine under.
Yeah.
I mean, I was toast at
Yeah.
the end of those runs because
Yeah.
we hiked up too. Like we took the cat, but it wasn't like they just dropped us off. You're
Right.
hiking up and you are toast. So it took everything in me to make those hops. And if
Yeah.
I wouldn't have, I wouldn't be here,
Right.
And it's like, if you just wouldn't have made those extra things. I mean, so, and part of it was too, is like, I think part of the motivation of this was that there was a couple other things that happened, and I'll have a couple of guests on around this too. But other people that were in our party, they took things significantly different than I did. I was incredibly thankful that I was here, right?
Right.
Because I had some physical trauma that happened to me, so maybe that helped me, right? But there's others that like if they smell like evergreen, it
Okay.
triggers something to them, and it's like, and unfortunately the guy, I didn't say this before, but the guy did pass away. And so, or one of them. And so like it was like there was a fatality, and you have that,
Mhm.
you sometimes have a survivor's guilt too. You're like, well, it
Yeah.
could have been me, it should have been me. And I think one of the things that like those that have gone through trauma or different events and things like that, like there's this thing in your head that keeps cycling. Like if you get a label, it keeps cycling and you don't let it go, it's gonna completely put you in a prison. And so one of the things that I've always suggested is that, and what helped me was writing it out. So once I started writing out the story, once I started speaking it out and recording myself on that story,
It's healing.
like, I could let it go. My brain
Yes.
could let it go,
Yep.
and I could focus on what's the next step. And it wasn't a big step, it was a little step, and a little step, and a little step, and a little step. And then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then pretty soon you're like, "Well, that's in the past," and now
Exactly.
that
I'm
just made me
healed.
stronger.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I share a
yeah,
story in every one of the books, and this was not nearly as traumatic as you, but I was in the 3rd grade and I fell off a train and I literally my ear got slit. And it's a train that with a 50-foot drop off, and it was just a train at a theme park that would go around the park. But being in the 3rd grade and experiencing that trauma and then not being able to share that story because it gave my parents nightmares, that
yeah,
was really difficult. But then being able to share it when I got older, it was healing because it's like, well, that's not a defining moment of who I am now, and I'm not leaning on
yeah,
that to be a victim, but it's shaped me to be more observant. And now, like
yeah.
OSHA, I understand what you're doing with the chains on the trains. Like
Right.
I slipped right off and landed on the tracks. But I'm just
Gee,
more observant. But there's different experiences that teach you different lessons. So
yeah.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
But
So, yeah, you're the first story about falling off of a train and getting your ear run over.
yeah,
That's
crazy.
you're the
But
first one for that. Yeah,
that was a pretty
amazing.
traumatic 3rd grade year, I will tell you.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So,
Yeah, I
but
think I might have broke my arm in 3rd grade. That's what I did, falling off a tree, but, like,
yeah.
yeah, not getting run over by a train.
Yeah.
So, crazy.
Yep.
Well, so what else should we leave the audience with today? Because I've loved this conversation, even though this is why we had to have it. We had our third time was the charm today,
Yep.
was starting this up. But I think we've got some great things, and I know that if there's people out there that need a curriculum for their kids, I want them to look for your curriculum.
Thank
You
you.
have 7 books, more coming, radio show too. Like I love this. So we'll put all the links and things in here. But anything else you would leave? To somebody like what would you tell your younger self one more time, like in what would you say at that point?
Well, I mean, I would first give her a hug and be like, "It's everything's gonna be all right." But I think just whatever you set your mind to, believe that you're capable of achieving it and don't give up too soon, you know? Yeah. Like you said, how long does someone live without oxygen? But then how long does someone live without hope? Like, it's all about the mindset. It's all about your mental capacity. It's all about believing in yourself and what you're capable of accomplishing.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I love it. Well, thanks so much for being the guest today. For those at home, you know what to do. Follow, share, send this to somebody that will benefit from it. I mean, we're trying to break the algorithm because they don't share our stuff. Okay. You can find us in different places. But if you know somebody that needs this, please do share it. Take the time to do it. And if you know somebody that needs just a little encouragement, give it to them. So we're here to support you, and you'll have all the information to connect with Jennifer as well. And until next time, keep your chin up, and we'll see you soon.